going, guys? Welcome back to the Rantin Review Pro Wrestling. And we're doing a quick review of AEW Dynamite this week, the last Dynamite of 2022. And it was a good one to review. The show started off with Bryan Danielson against All Ego Ethan Page after a pretty interesting promo last week. Of course, Stokely has now one of my favorite phrases in wrestling, and that is, you raggedy bitch. They had a little comedy about Stokely being bald in this match, but which was otherwise a very serious match between two really good wrestlers, Ethan Page and Bryan Danielson. This is the kind of match I really want to see Ethan Page in against somebody like a Danielson, where Ethan Page can actually shine a little bit. And shine he did in this match. He did lose the match, but of course we are heading towards a apparent Bryan Danielson MJF showdown for the AEW Championship in the near future. Top Flight took on the Blackpool Combat Club in a very hard-hitting match, which was very much dominated by the Blackpool Combat Club. I kind of missed the story in this match because I had to take a phone call in the middle of it, so I may have missed any storyline beats in this, although I did notice at the end of the match, after Claudio does get the win, he is sitting over Darius, and he's kind of saying, hey, he's saying a lot to him after the pinfall. I'm not quite sure what that was, if that's storyline or if that's just something that happened because maybe there was a miscommunication in the match or something like that, who knows. But I guess we'll see if this is anything coming in the future weeks between Top Flight and the Blackpool Combat Club, which is kind of an odd pairing, but it was a fun match. Ruby Soho and Willow Nightingale took on the Jericho Appreciation Society's Anna Jay and Ty Mello. And Ty Mello's, she's kind of fallen down my list of appreciation. The last couple of moves in this match, you could kind of tell she missed them. Ruby Soho had a pause for the chair shot, which made Ruby kind of look kind of silly. Like, well, why did you catch the chair and then just hold it there for her to hit you? Because Ty was off a little bit. That may be being a little bit too critical of her in this match, but it was something that I did notice. And it was otherwise a very entertaining tag match, but the JAS does wind up picking up the win over Soho and Willow. Soho, Willow? I don't know. Maybe they'll be a tag team. Match 6 of the best of 7 series between Death Triangle and the Elite kicked off in the backstage area, which of course is kind of ironic that the Elite are having a fight in the backstage area. But anyway, moving on from that obvious thing, this was a wild, crazy match. In fact, all 6 matches in this series have been crazy, and we knew the first couple of ones were going to be kind of in-ring affairs, and now they've added stipulations to the last few matches, which keeps the series interesting. And this being a Falls Count Anywhere type of a match, these guys went everywhere, and there were near falls everywhere, and it is impossible to go through this stuff. Rey Fenix is awesome. Kenny Omega looks like he's in fine shape again. The Bucks are still holding their own. Penta is vicious, and Pac is playing the dramatic side of this as being the biggest hothead on the Death Triangle side, a little bit more than I thought he was going to be. I thought it was going to be more Penta kind of being the one pushing the kind of a sinister angle, and Pac might have been neutral, but no, it's both Penta and Pac who are pushing Phoenix to be a little bit more heelish in these matches. Did something that I had thought about a couple years ago. I remember having this random thought, like, wouldn't it be cool if in one of these, Falls Count Anywhere matches, if it was like a tag match or something, that somebody would have a submission on, their opponent is definitely going to tap out, but there's this other guy who actually winds up getting the pin outside the ring before the guy can tap out in the ring, and that's exactly what this finish was. So again, and AEW does a lot of that. They do a lot of that sometimes, where they do things that we all kind of have thought of as wrestling fans, but rarely ever seen done, and then they wind up doing it. To the credit to WWE is starting to do a lot of that too themselves. I don't know about this Lights Pitch Black match they got coming up, but that's a WWE story for another time. We had a couple other points of interest going on this show. There was a really interesting rap by the Acclaim, kind of dissing Jay Lethal, and it was actually a pretty good rap. It sounded pretty good. Dissing Jay Lethal and Jeff Jarrett and everybody else with that crew. The Ass Boys were there, and they were leaving because they had a party to go to, and they didn't have time to do an interview, but they did let you know that they would be talking about it next week. Of course, next week will be January the 4th, and FTR will not be in the United States. They'll be in Japan for Wrestle Kingdom, so the Ass Boys are going to take that opportunity to run their mouths about FTR when they are on the other side of the world on Dynamite next week. That should be funny. In the main event, it is Wardlow challenging Samoa Joe for the TNT Championship. Before, earlier in the show, during an interview segment, Samoa Joe attacked Wardlow, injured his leg, so that was the story of the match. Wardlow appeared like he might not come out of course, he did come out, hobbling to the ring. He did have, even with one leg, a good advantage on Joe, but eventually the leg got to him. Joe saw the advantage. Joe took the advantage and started really wiping out Wardlow throughout this match, which I think a lot of people were kind of surprised at, but I think at this point in time, Wardlow, I should say, does need a bit of rehabilitation, and this feud with Joe is not over, but it has hit that point where it's like, okay, we kind of need to rebuild Wardlow's heat again, because the guy was again, this is part Max's fault, this is part Tony Khan's fault, but you know, the momentum Wardlow had a year ago and carried through into the spring of last year kind of got completely nixed, so we're kind of having to find a way to redo it here. Samoa Joe does win the match. After the match, he starts threatening referees with scissors, and he takes his scissors and basically scalps Wardlow and claims Wardlow's scalp as another prize on the mantle of your king, Samoa Joe. What is with all these Samoans now wanting everybody to acknowledge them as royalty? We did get one more surprise though in the night as Darby Allin's music played. He didn't come down a ramp, he snuck up from behind Joe, which is kind of a heel thing, but he blasted Joe in the back with the skateboard, thus setting up what I'm sure is going to be another match between Samoa Joe and Darby Allin. The first one was great. It was hard to watch because Darby was taking some ridiculous bumps, but I would be up for seeing another Samoa Joe Darby Allin match. I like this little mix up here that they've got all of these guys involved in the TNT Championship. While I would like the TNT Championship, I've said it before, that I would prefer it be a big guy championship in AEW. I don't mind Darby Allin challenging for it. I mean, being the exception to the rule. And, you know, championships can change over time. Again, I do stress, though, that I would like titles to have a reason or a theme about them, that, you know, this title's a strong style title, this title's a hardcore title, this title's an international title, this title is for the big guys, this title is for the juniors. I do think those distinctions give the titles identity, but again, it's not that big a deal. The only other note for tonight that I definitely have to comment on is Hook did have a very quick match tonight, but he didn't ran into the Firm, and seeing Hook face off against, what are we calling him now? Big Bill, Big Will, Big Willie style, whatever, W. Morrissey, whatever. You can't teach that. And him standing towering over Hook was pretty awesome, but Hook wasn't backing down. Hook looked like Hook was going to be able to outsmart him, but Morrissey overpowered him, was going to choke slam Hook. I was like, wow, this is the most vulnerable they're going to make Hook look. This is the most vulnerable they're going to ever make Hook. I can't do it. This is the most vulnerable that they will have made Hook look. I got it. Since his kid is caught on in AEW. But no. Jungle Boy came out, made the save for Hook, and blasted Morrissey in the back and in the stomach with a 2x4, which I actually got hit with a 2x4 2 weeks ago, and it does hurt pretty badly. So I can attest to that. But yeah, they ran him off. And again, this team, I like the slow way they're kind of building into this of Jungle Boy and Hook being this kind of handsome duo, this heartthrob combo. They play it right. This could be really, really big. I like the combination of those two kids together. It should be cool. Well, that's my review of AEW Dynamite. Of course, next week is a huge Dynamite. Next week on Dynamite, they've got their New Year's Bash show, which is on January the 4th. So I'm preparing myself now to watch a lot of wrestling because, of course, as some of you know, January 4th is also the date of New Japan Pro Wrestling's biggest show of the year, their Starrcade, their WrestleMania called Wrestle Kingdom. Kenny Omega will be taking on Will Ospreay, Jay White, Kazuchika Okada, FTR against Bishamon, etc., etc. So it's a huge night of wrestling that I'll be watching already with a Dynamite, a 2-hour Dynamite that's pretty loaded with Ricky Starks against Chris Jericho next week and a bunch of other matches they've got slated up for this thing. And it's going to be the debut of the new look of the new AEW set, which I think we got a hint from some of the graphics tonight. A lot of neon reds, neon blues, and kind of what it looks like a multiple screen, vertical screen setup for the stage possibly. We'll see next week, but it definitely is going to be a new look. Of course, the new hire The guy that was under Kevin Dunn in WWE, who was supposed to be his heir apparent, is now working in AEW in the same role as a producer, and is probably going to have a lot of visual changes to the style and the presentation of AEW in the future. So I think that's going to be pretty cool, and we're going to see the first bit of that possibly coming up on January 4th for AEW Dynamite. But I want to know what you guys thought about the show. Let your voice be heard in the comment box below. Until next time, I will see you guys here for more news, rumors, and commentary on the Rant and Review Pro Wrestling. And this coming Thursday, which should be later this evening by the time you see this video, I will be having a live stream as we continue counting down 2022, where we will be doing a tier list of the best and most important news stories in the world of wrestling in 2022. And this is a unique thing because 2022 had a lot of big news stories, and we're going to list them, we're going to rank them with you guys here live at 7 o'clock on Thursday. So I'll see you guys then, and until then, have a good day.